BYD has announced that their newest EV platform is going to be capable of charging up to 1 megawatt of power, which is truly an unprecedented leap forward for the passenger vehicle market. The race toward a cleaner future has always seemed locked between electric cars and old combustion engines, but suddenly, a stunning twist has caught everyone off guard. BYD's CEO just revealed a brand new engine that he claims will destroy all electric cars. The world is buzzing, and many are eager to understand if this bold move could truly reshape everything we thought we knew. BYD has grown into this powerhouse. If you look at the monthly rankings, they're always at the top, rethinking the future. It all started with a statement that felt like a sudden shock across the automotive world. Wang Chuanfu, the CEO of BYD, stood before a packed audience at a private event in Shenzhen, China. This new engine, he said, pausing for effect, will destroy all electric cars. At first, people thought they had misunderstood him. BYD had built its empire on electric vehicles, pushing China and much of the world toward a battery-powered future. Why would Wang, the man behind the world's biggest EV company, make such a claim? You will want to keep watching because the details will leave you stunned. BYD was developing a revolutionary internal combustion engine, something the world had not seen before. It was not just a tweak to an old idea, it was a brand new design that promised unmatched fuel efficiency, ultra-low emissions, and the ability to run on multiple types of fuel, including green alternatives. This was not about clinging to the past. It was about setting a new standard for the future, one that did not rely solely on batteries and charging stations. The timing of this announcement was no accident. Around the world, the electric car market had started to show cracks. Battery shortages, high costs, and concerns about the environmental impact of mining had started to raise new questions. Obviously, a fully electric future really wasn't as clean and simple as it had been sold. Wang's words tapped into a growing feeling of doubt. Maybe the industry had moved too quickly or too blindly, and maybe there was another way. As Wang explained, this new engine had been quietly in development for years. BYD's team of engineers had been working in secret, driven by the mission to create a powertrain that could outperform electric cars in every important way. They aimed for a fuel economy that could rival or even beat electric efficiency, while keeping emissions so low they would meet even the toughest global regulations. Most importantly, they wanted to bring back the driving experience filled with excitement and passion that many drivers felt they had lost in the switch to silent, heavy EVs. Beyond the strategy and the science, this was something that made Wang's announcement so powerful. It touched something emotional, something deep inside every true car lover. For decades, people had fallen in love with the roar of an engine, the vibration under their feet, and the feeling of connection between man and machine. Electric cars, for all their advantages, often stripped away those sensations. They were quiet, smooth, and efficient, but they lacked the soul that made driving feel alive. Wang understood that better than most. The new BYD engine was not just about performance and sustainability, it was about bringing back the magic of driving. Every pulse of the piston, every growl from the exhaust, every slight vibration through the steering wheel was part of the experience. It reminded drivers that a car was more than just a tool, it was a partner, a companion, a piece of living art that spoke to the senses. This emotional connection had slowly faded as the world shifted towards silent, heavy electric vehicles. But BYD's new engine promised to bring it back without sacrificing the future. You could still feel the heartbeat of your car. You could still enjoy the thrill of the drive, and you could do it while knowing you weren't harming the planet. As Wang spoke about the emotional side of driving, the room grew even more focused. BYD had found a way to merge the past and the future into one machine, something that touched both the mind and the heart. This was about preserving the things people loved and offering an alternative to an electric world. Wang was not rejecting progress, he was showing a way to move forward without losing the soul of driving itself. To make this vision a reality, BYD had pushed the limits of engineering. They introduced technologies that allowed precise control over combustion, reducing waste and boosting power. The engine was designed to adapt on the fly to different types of fuels, from traditional gasoline to biofuels and synthetic blends. This flexibility was not just technical, it was a direct challenge to the idea that batteries were the only answer for a greener future. Wang's bold statement was not just about technology, it was a shot across the bow of an entire industry that had bet everything on one solution. Investors began to realize the implications. A company with a diversified propulsion portfolio is better shielded against raw material shortages, regulatory shifts, and geopolitical instability. Technologically, The new engine represents the culmination of decades of incremental and radical innovation. It incorporates elements from aerospace engineering, high-efficiency stationary engines, and Formula One combustion optimization. Yet it wraps all of this in a cost-effective, scalable package for everyday drivers. The rollout plan remains ambitious. Wang announced that the first production models featuring the new engine will hit the Chinese market within a year, with international expansion to follow. Strategic partnerships with fuel companies and infrastructure providers are already in place to ensure compatibility and fuel availability. Moreover, BYD plans to license the technology to other automakers, potentially making this engine a standard across a wide swath of the industry, if rivals are willing to adopt a competitor's innovation. While the unveiling focused primarily on the engineering and strategic dimensions, the cultural undertones were just as significant. In an era where the global automotive industry has often been led by Western or Japanese innovation, BYD's bold move asserts China's capacity not only to follow but to lead, and to redefine the terms of the debate. Wang Chuanfu, a figure who once stood in Tesla's shadow, is now carving his own legend and doing so on terms that blend pragmatism with ambition. The engine, in all its polished complexity, may well become a symbol of a new philosophy in automotive development, one that refuses binary choices between combustion and electric, legacy and future. Instead, it embraces nuance and multiplicity. At the center of this storm was the notion that combustion, once vilified for its role in environmental degradation, had been reborn in an unexpectedly clean and efficient form. The timing of this technological unveiling is just as critical as the innovation itself. Global narratives around energy, climate policy, and infrastructure investment are in flux, and BYD's announcement may redirect these conversations in substantial ways. One of the key dynamics influenced by this development is the structure of global energy policy. For over a decade, governments have operated on the assumption that electrification was the optimal path forward for reducing emissions from transport. Subsidies, incentives, and infrastructure projects have largely been designed around the deployment of electric vehicles and the retirement of fossil fuel technology. But BYD's engine introduces a compelling counterpoint. If a combustion engine can match or even exceed electric vehicles in terms of emissions and efficiency, then the rationale for exclusive support of battery technology becomes less solid. Some policymakers may now advocate for a more diversified investment strategy, one that includes support for synthetic fuels, biofuel production, and the modernization of combustion-based transportation. This shift in political and financial discourse is not hypothetical. It is already taking shape. International organizations and think tanks are revisiting their modeling scenarios to account for ultra-efficient combustion. Countries that had been reluctant to commit fully to electric vehicle infrastructure due to cost, terrain, or grid limitations are now seeing a viable path forward that doesn't rely on lithium mines or cobalt extraction. For example, nations with large agricultural sectors are looking anew at biofuels, considering whether they can now be paired with next-generation combustion engines to produce genuinely low-emission mobility. In these regions, the engine becomes more than a technology, it becomes a tool of economic self-determination. Moreover, the psychological and socio-political dimensions of the internal combustion revival cannot be understated. Many regions of the world harbor deep infrastructural and cultural ties to combustion-powered transport. Entire economies, from mechanics to fuel suppliers to logistics networks, are built around internal combustion engine vehicles. A technology that modernizes rather than replaces that ecosystem could ease the anxieties of millions who view electrification not as liberation but as a potential economic disruption. In tandem with these geopolitical reverberations, the educational and research sectors will also feel the pull of this paradigm shift. For over a decade, engineering programs worldwide have heavily emphasized electric drivetrain design, battery chemistry, and software development for EV platforms. Now, with the resurgence of high-efficiency combustion, curricula may shift again. Thermal engineering, fluid dynamics, and combustion optimization could return to prominence in academic programs, with a renewed focus on sustainability and emissions control. Universities and technical institutions might launch new programs dedicated to hybrid systems and intelligent combustion, a merger of traditional mechanical engineering and modern AI-driven control systems. Energy companies, too, are paying close attention. While many have diversified into electric vehicle charging networks and battery storage, some are now evaluating the opportunity to invest in or partner with synthetic fuel initiatives. The ability to produce fuels that work seamlessly with new generation engines offers a commercially viable use for excess renewable electricity, which can be converted into hydrogen or carbon-neutral hydrocarbons via power-to-liquid processes. In this way, BYD's engine could also help address the intermittency issues of solar and wind energy by creating a massive new demand channel for surplus power. At the same time, insurance providers and safety regulators will need to reconsider how they classify and assess risk in this new technological landscape. Combustion vehicles have traditionally involved certain predictable hazards, such as fuel flammability, engine overheating, and mechanical wear. However, the new engine's modular construction, intelligent controls, and simplified architecture significantly reduce many of these risks. Regulatory bodies may soon begin crafting entirely new standards for these ultra-clean combustion platforms, acknowledging that they no longer fit neatly into old ICE categories. Safety certifications, emissions classifications, and even licensing rules may evolve in response. Environmental advocacy groups, historically skeptical of anything bearing the name internal combustion, now face a nuanced dilemma. While the legacy of pollution tied to old combustion engines cannot be ignored, the new engine's performance demands a reassessment. If life cycle emissions including fuel production, vehicle manufacture, and end-of-life processing prove lower than many current electric vehicles, the conversation around sustainable transport will need to be broadened. Some environmentalists may resist the idea, viewing it as a delay tactic in the march toward electrification. Others, however, might embrace it as a necessary and equitable solution for parts of the world where batteries remain an impractical option. Consumer behavior is also likely to shift in unpredictable ways. The last decade saw a rising cultural attachment to electric vehicles, from their sleek branding to their association with technological sophistication and environmental virtue. But if combustion engines can offer comparable performance, lower life cycle emissions, and greater long-distance flexibility, consumers may begin to reevaluate their choices. This shift could be particularly pronounced in rural areas, cold climates, and regions with limited charging access. Buyers may start seeking out vehicles powered by the new engine as an expression of both pragmatism and environmental responsibility. Dealerships and vehicle service networks will benefit from this change as well. The slow rollout of EV service infrastructure has left many dealers in limbo, caught between supporting legacy vehicles and adapting to an all-electric future. With BYD's new engine, service providers can modernize their offerings without abandoning their skill base. The engine's simplified design and predictive maintenance features may even reduce service frequency and complexity, improving margins for dealers and convenience for customers. Fleet operators, logistics companies, rideshare networks, and public transportation authorities stand to gain considerably. Many have faced challenges scaling EV fleets due to charging logistics, limited range, and downtime. An ultra-efficient combustion engine allows for the deployment of vehicles with predictable refueling patterns and high endurance, especially important for 24-hour fleet operations. BYD's initial focus on fleet customers may accelerate adoption, demonstrating cost savings and performance metrics in high-demand environments before trickling down to private ownership. Within the automotive industry, design philosophies may also evolve in response to this breakthrough. Electric vehicles have often dictated a particular layout: flat floors, battery packs under seats, and aerodynamic bodies designed to maximize range. The new engine, being compact and modular, introduces new possibilities. Designers may enjoy greater flexibility in vehicle aesthetics and ergonomics, creating models that blend the best of combustion and electric form factors.